I'm going to forget some words, and that's a Sam McCall guarantee. And take that to the bank. So before I start, there was, when Birds with Teeth did a feature, TC guest hosted, and she did this thing that I was super, super into and I really like. So if you can bear with me and put up with me doing some really hippie shit for a second, I want us to all breathe together for a minute. Because I thought that was really powerful and awesome. So just take a minute. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. Come to me. Come to me and blend your breaths with mine for a while. I told you this would happen.
That's all right. Part of the show.
Press your head against my prickly chest and fall into me. Let me keep you for a night. Come to me and let us marvel at all the love that hands can teach, taking our lessons equally in the before and the after. Let us compare tattoos and invent new meanings for every stroke, offering laughs that blossom thick and sticky as mouthfuls of taffy. Come to me, and when you arrive, do not wipe your feet at the door of my heart. It is a muddy and bloody place. Leave your tracks with all the rest. Do not give me the face you have prepared for work outings and family gatherings. Pretend I am no one at all, and let your secrets spill into me as into an empty well. Do not balk and fret over your blunders around me. I too stumble blindly. Hugely I stumble. Do not try so hard to have something to say. Just say things. Let your mouth shape its tiny miracles even as we sleep. Let your goodness come pouring in like morning through the windows of my heart. Feed me your worries, overripe and bruised tender. Nothing that comes from your truest self can I find unpalatable. Show me the ghost of your pain, and I will show you that it is holy. I will sing your sadness in a major key, C-sharp octaves below audible, bubbling in my chest, all thundering and drunk. I will smooth and fold it warm into your breast and drape it beneath your dressings, and you will not be afraid anymore to let it be seen. Your walk will be as easy and untaught as any, and no more will you wonder at the ifs and whats they whisper as you pass. And if you must be gone by morning, leave the door open behind you. Let me taste in turn both the hot breath of your coming and the cool wind of your going. I will study the stillness of your presence against the stillness of your absence. In both, I feel my muscles pink and exposed and shiver at the wholesome touch of my skin to itself. Only you can choose between them. Surprise me every time.
Yeah.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Ow!
So I have a little set list here, but at some point I'm probably going to go off script and just do what I want. But, this next poem is called Exodus, chapter 2, verses 11 and 12. It's 1998, and I haven't yet grown into so many turtle shells. We come here every year, often 2 or 3 times. It's probably October. All of the campers' children are down by the waterfront, and I'm down there with them, pondweed, switchgrass, lizard's tail. I don't talk much, but I make friends easily. 8 is simple in that way. All of us tamping and weddings, sculpting monuments to heroes we'll forget and remember and forget. Towers and pits, tunnels and sand some dump truck left here a quarter century ago. Fresh collections of debris line our uneven fingernails. Breath all tar and venom, one builds only his shadow, harassing the littlest boy. He talks high, mean talk, spit and scorn on the boy's fortress, and I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone, but when his foot connects and a spire flattens, I am at once something I have never known myself to be. What are you going to do about it? I show him what I'm going to do about it. I show him sand, and then he's screaming and running, and I'm scared of what I've done, so then I'm running too. All day. Is he blind now? Will he be blind forever? Will they pin his eyes shut like the boy at Chuck E. Cheese's who cried and pointed at me when I fell on him in the ball pit? All day I hide in the camper, ashamed, crying into one more early lesson on guilt. Now I've grown up. I've been places, seen things, and my learning is still slow, still hurts, but my methods, my instruments are sharp. And when I put the sand in your eyes, I will not throw it. I will place it carefully, grain by grain, and when you finally feel them, when the itching and stinging becomes at last undeniable, some of them will never come out. You will live and die with tiny castles stabbing tiny glass armies into your eyes. I don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
So that poem is about how I feel about bullies. I don't like them. And I chose it specifically because my mother really likes it, which is hysterical to me because it's the only one where I get violent. And so there we go. This next one is one that I'm quite fond of, mostly because I think, like, from a technical level, it's among my better ones, but if you disagree, tell me after, or tell me during. By the way, this whole like barrier between the audience and the performer, I'm not into it. If you feel like yelling something at me or asking me a question, go for it. It's cool. Yeah. I do it at the slams all the time. Kimberly and Maya will both tell you that I will interrupt them and say some stuff, so feel free. Just please not in the middle of the poem, like this part right now is the time to do it. Anyway, this poem is called A Painting of Sunlight, and it opens with an epigraph that I had to write down. Yet when we came back late from the hyacinth garden, your arms full and your hair wet, I could not speak, and my eyes failed. I was neither living nor dead, and I knew nothing, looking into the heart of light, the silence. T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. Every stray electron bouncing from lip to lip, strange ions forming the battery of our mouths, we flooded the room with iridescent glow. The moon pulled at our crashing breasts through the window shade, the brown hunger of that great rock lifting into origin. Of course it was spring. But there was a snag in your throat, and my hands, alive beneath the soft mystery of your dark fabrics, were perhaps too cautious. I caught my breath between my teeth. I am among the very few people I mistrust, and everything is one kind of fiction or another. And then the raving, the opaque, dawnless dawns, picking at the scab, consorting with smoke. Why do I ask such useless questions? But we buried our disappointments. And again there was a table between us and drinks, and the night swam back to us and burrowed into our ribs. The tips of your ears were poking through that silky hair, catching the sheen of the patio lamp. The sight made me giddy, and I thought then about how your nose is shaped exactly like your laugh. Fingering the stem of your glass, you parted your thin, stately lips to suggest, I'm feeling tipsy. Your dress was a low, welcoming hum, and the light that dripped from your dimples pooled in its thrilling folds. We left in separate cars. It was days later, with calipers and crude iron instruments, that I deciphered your simple, dark science. Why does it always smell like burning here? I remember once, I wrote a poem about your smile. It felt sweet to write, and I believe I meant it. But I'm always writing poems, and my gestures sometimes are bigger than my love. I'm not sure if this is an ode or an exorcism. Your name was on its way to a quiet death in the back of my throat, but I can't stop tonguing the ulcer, can't stop digging through the wreckage, searching for anything at all to join to this one whole, holy thread in our unraveled tapestry of almost. It is a Saturday in April. Before we return to your apartment, before we spread ourselves ravenous over your couch, before your brother returns home, sending us discreetly to our separate evenings. We have lost ourselves in the museum, and in the hush, it is as though we are at last speaking the same language. You glide to me and rest your cheek on my shoulder, your warmth slipping itself around me, and we stand there for a while, breathing in the day, draping our content gazes across a painting of sunlight as it pokes through the trees lining a cobblestone road. Our bodies sing the same silent chorus, and the golden fingers of afternoon pour in upon us. My arm around your waist, moored in one true moment.
Yeah.
I know I need the paper for it because it's new. It doesn't have a title yet, so if you want to help me brainstorm later, you're welcome to do that. Usually, so like my mood is connected to the weather a lot. Like, it affects me and stuff in seasons, and it's, honestly, I mean, it sounds inconvenient, but it's kind of cool. Like, I get to feel a lot of different things. And usually, sunny days are really awesome for me. Like, I have energy, I'm in a good mood, but recently, it kind of swapped, and I was like, I felt out of place on the sunny days, and I felt really happy on the cloudy days, and that was weird, so I wrote a poem about it. And it doesn't have a title yet. We talked about that.
Hey, sunny versus cloudy.
That's it, you got it. In the morning, as I went out to write from my porch, whose view is loveliest of all in our little apartment complex, I found my mouth unusually dry, and when I tried to speak, all the words fell limp from my tongue. I only sat in the warm day and waited for a muse to coax some pretty thread from my lips. I only sat in the bright day, listening to the robins squabble in strange terms, letting the yellow light rest upon my shoulder like a stranger's hand, and waited. The breeze crept and bent through the magnolia in gestures I could not discern, and at night the stars sat rigid, mocking me in constellations I did not recognize. I slept empty. When I woke, the sky had dropped low like a quilt over the earth, and the slurry of cars came trickling through my window. It was gray. It would be gray all day, all week, and my heart, the only sun for miles, blossomed in the wet noon air and sang, I see, I see.
Yeah.
This one is not new. I mean, I guess it's new-ish, but it's some of you have heard it before. This is one I wrote for my nephew.
Yes.
It's called For Chris, whose favorite color is pink. And side story, because I didn't plan my banter tonight. I'm doing this off the cuff. It's less to be anxious about if you don't plan it. We did a kids slam that was super, super awesome. We had these kids from Morris Elementary, grades 3 through 5, wasn't it? They came and they watched us do a slam demo, and they loved it, and we loved it, and it was super great, and I didn't read any violent or sexual poems. It was all just nice stuff. And I mean, there was stuff that dealt with, like, not nice emotions, but like, you know, healthy stuff that kids can understand. So, if you are a teacher or you know a teacher who would be interested in something like that, please let us know, because I know we're all excited to do something like that again, and it was awesome. And I wrote this poem for that, and I mean, I wrote it for my nephew, but that was the first time I did it. Anyway, again, for Chris, his favorite color is pink. When you were born, you came so soon. For weeks in the hospital, we sat and watched you. A fragile miniature, little glass boy in a little glass box, wired and monitored. How could I have known what to expect? Chris, with the openest hands, I remember this one time, you waited all day for a cookie. Wanted it so bad, it hurt. And when you had to eat spinach and broccoli and carrots and then wait for the adults to finish eating before you could finally have your dessert. And when you finally got it, you were so excited you couldn't stop jumping up and down. I teased you. I laughed and said, "Don't I get a bite?" You smiled and tore it perfectly in half for me, you special, special little boy. Chris, with eyes like oatmeal pies, partially colorblind with your glasses and your hearing aids and your love and your love. I wonder what thoughts swim out of that curly head as you take your dreaming breaths. Chris, with always 1,000 questions. Who's Harry Potter's dad? How does electricity work? How high do numbers go? What is outer space like? Why do people do bad things? Why do people hurt themselves? Your questions only get bigger, and you will see someday how very small I am, how very small we all are. I hope you will remember then that I never gave you the children's answers. I always answered as fully and honestly as I could. So when the questions grow bigger than both of us, we can try them together. Chris, with your already handsome smile, you will fall in love, probably more than once. Remember, your heart doesn't have to scream for it to be real. Listen for the whisper. Chris, always listening, always learning, they will try to tell you who God is. They are already trying. Do not let them. Let him or her. Some questions are too important not to answer for yourself. Chris, with so many adoring keepers, when you're grown, when you become a man, shaping your own life in accordance to your own rules, when you belong to no one but yourself, remember that when each of us saw you, pushing your little trains, throwing perfect spirals, playing your violin, we trembled with pride to know that, if only for a while, you belonged to us.
Good. Yeah.
dry. I mentioned that in the poem when this happened. If somebody at all would love to bring me a cup of water at some point, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the next poem, and we can do a smooth transition right in between. How about that? Sound good? Okay. So, you ever wake up and you've had a dream that impacted your emotional state in some way, and you still have the feelings from that dream, and it just kind of sticks with you for a little while? Yeah. I mean, you guys remember what I said about the barrier between audience and Thank you. So, one time a while ago, I woke up and I just felt really lonely. And I couldn't remember any dreams, but it was it was that same feeling, I've had a dream that has made me lonely and I don't know what it is. So I immediately grabbed my phone and I was like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna make up a dream and that's gonna be what made me lonely. So I grabbed my phone and I made up a dream, and this is what it was, and I called it Alaska. Your shoelaces had turned to smoke, and if you touched them, they would fall apart. So you had to run to the store, being careful not to bump them into anything. I wanted to go with you, but I had recently woken to find that my roommate and I were sharing a lung, and in the schedule we'd drawn out, it was his time to watch Cheers. I told him he could simply watch it on the billboards on the way to the store, but he objected that I would want to talk on the ride, and with all of my words rattling around in our lung, he wouldn't be able to hear a thing. Of course I had considered that, but I'd hoped that if I presented the idea in just the right way, he might neglect to do so himself. He didn't, and that was that. So you told me that if you fell in love with anyone at the store, you would give me a chance to win back your heart before you took the trip to Alaska where he would propose to you. I was sure you were trying to trick me just as I tried to trick Kevin, but I couldn't think of anything to say, so we hugged and I told you good luck and you told Kevin good luck, and he said, come on man, I want to sit on the couch for this. So we sat on the couch and started watching Cheers, and when I turned around, you were in Alaska. A lot of my, I do a lot of dark stuff and I do a lot of stuff that's not so dark, and I wanted to kind of keep a balance, but there were 3 that I felt really went together, and they're all progressively more dark. So if that's not your jam and you want to go outside and do some jumping jacks for a little while, you can do that, and it's going to be healthy for you, and you can come back when we're done talking about unhealthy things. So if you're into that, go ahead. But this first one, and I hope I remember because I didn't print it out, is called Gasoline, and I wrote it a long time ago. When you were little, you held your breath. Something in you knew it was poison. Sometimes you didn't even get out of the truck, reluctant to miss Dad's company even for a 2-minute fill-up. Your nostrils flare in protest when you recall the sharp, sour scent, but not in its presence. You're older now. You've been places, seen things. You got laid, forgot, drank too much, or probably drinking too much now. And when you pull into the gas station, you roll your windows down. Something smells sweet. You know it's poison.
Woo.
Apparently, I trusted myself to remember how this next one goes, too. So, it's short. I'm going to look at it real quick. Because conveniently, I left Google Drive up on my phone for this precise reason. And here it is. I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to remember it. It also doesn't have a title, so if you want to help me with that, you're welcome to.
Media too.
Yeah, I got the idea from Forrest.
That's
a good idea.
All right, I'm going to try it. Dusk comes billowing in like smoke, a morning of its own. Soon the night will open itself to me, and I will fold my body into the dark. In the distance, the sun gorges itself on the horizon like the last feast of a dying god. Everything that I am, I have chosen to be. This one is one that I threw it in to keep that balance of bright and dark stuff, because if I didn't, I was very much nearing 2/3 dark, and I was like, I don't want to alienate anyone who doesn't feel bad stuff sometimes. But I had a title, I hated the title, so again, I usually have titles, and I'm usually proud of my titles. I'm like, yeah, I worked hard for that title, it's good. But tonight, it's just not there. So again, if anyone has suggestions, I'm listening. And I think I'm ready to do it. Yeah. Stepping into the cool of streets and shops, into the warmth of my own mug, of people in their idle hurry, the walking talk of couples, friends, the busy silent chatter of the lonely, drifting with heads down or up, with sleepy hands and dry faces, slipping into the pedestrian warmth, the pedestrian glow, the glow of coffee, of love, of some verses said and loved by a dear friend, the deciduous babble of new, and the smell of it, and the light clinging dearly to brick. Always something waiting, excited to admit to me its existence, always some buzzing at least, and always, eventually, the thinking that even now you could be here, that our paths could intersect on some blushing doorstep, and I could ask you to sit with me for a while, and be in this day with me. And I would offer you what I could, that I remember the dance of your teeth among your lips and your tongue between, your voice all around us like it never knew the afternoon, or that I remember the careful dialogue of our knitted fingers, my sheets learning forever the curve of your cheek. Or that I see you still sometimes, under the awning of this or that building, dressed in windows, you filling the air with yourself. And would I fill myself with assumptions, with projections and excuses, or observe the moment and the motions, the swelling pull of life into the throat, the nostrils, the chest, or observe my thoughts, my mind, its knowing and its flutters, its appraisal now, that of all the girls who have occupied my thoughts, only you were you. And if I should say this in every poem, very well, and better, I will sing it. And if it would grow tired, if you would begin to predict me, very well, the better you shall know me. And failing all of this, what I offer perhaps I would, offer only a squeeze of lemon into your dusky brew, let the solution swim and swirl, stirring whirlpools in which the evening carries you back to your private away, into that chamber of sound, my own palilalia, pouring my echoes into four-word pillows, to your name wisping still about my gums, always in and about my gums, even as it rises sweetly, faintly from my tongue. So we have more time than I thought. I was looking at the clock there, and I was like, I had one more planned, and it was another bright one. But since I have extra time, and I didn't go off script before, I'm doing it now, and I'm gonna take you back down a little bit because I like to do that, and you should have known that about me, or maybe didn't, or whatever. Here we go. This is called Torpor. They say if you come back to life, if you die and are resuscitated, it feels like you're on fire, all of your nerves lighting back up after a complete shutdown. Pure agony. Loving, after years of not loving, is something akin to that. You know. In only weeks it'll be winter again. Even in summer it feels more real, more true to think of winter. Imagining the ashy, brittle corpses of trees beneath their gaudy mantles, letting the fog spill from your seething mind into the jagged sunlight, letting it paint the scene a more convincing hue. You lie in bed, hours after waking, carefully, deliberately tilting your head to avoid the dusty columns of light, to avoid any reminder that you're expected to blossom and grow, that someone is hurting because you sewed a patch reading "Do not resuscitate" into the lining of your coat. It stayed in your bed for days, tethering her scent to your microcosm of tangled linens, until you finally washed her out. You take up new morning rituals, try to find peace, find a little. It even stays for a while. Walk slowly, be present, mind your breathing. The flowers are gone, but blue and green are enough. You think maybe you could start over again, maybe tear out the stitching and draw once more that first choking, blazing breath. It would feel so good to make someone happy. But what? You don't know. But of course there's a but. So you lie in bed hours before sleeping, sipping the darkness into your waking dreams, trying to forget the best sex you ever had, that it happened right here, feeling unforgivable because that's the most your memory has to offer. You can't say when exactly the other images fell away. When you stopped being able to look at her the way she loved, the way she said she'd never been looked at, the way you hope someone will continue looking at her. Or when you decided that alone was best. And late at night, you remember her sobs like distant tinny warbles, ghosts from beyond the mirror. And I still have more time.
Do mechanism.
Okay, great. I'm going to do mechanism. this is one that I've done several times, and I like it because it's fun, and it's got a lot of different voices, and thank you for breaking the barrier between audience and performers. That's what I was asking for. Where are the rest of you guys? This is called Mechanism. And I'm going to remember how it starts in just a second.
You are.
I watched them all, those lofty women in their heels, making rich marble of every surface that would sound for them, which is to say I sat silently by, dreaming askance. Which is to say I thought very highly of myself, which is to say I was and am ashamed, which is to say I stared narrowly through the film on my eyes and wondered what I might do with the rest of the day. Which is to say I left my skin on the floor. I went home. I drifted ghostly trenches entombed in artifice, which is to say I tried to distract myself, which is to say I dig deep into meaningless tangential thoughts. I say things that don't make sense, which is a tactic that might ring familiar to you, which is to say the Pilgrim Glutton was a thesis, which is to remind you that when measuring the miles in this search for holy shores, you should as well consider the fathoms, which is a warning of the ends that lie between your beginning and your end, which is to say, have mercy on our kind, hungry, hellish sheep, which is not a confession, though I suspect you will take it as one, which is perhaps a little evasive. Which is to say, the object of any game is to be the person who ends the fun, which is, once again, not at all what I mean, which is to say, I saw you there, under the flickering, buzzing, fluorescent light, wringing sponges full of grief into your mouth. Which is to say, I have been always a stranger, floating into and out of different throats. Which is to say, I am sorry often. Which is to say, I'm sorry. Since you guys are apparently feeling the dark stuff, and that's great, because that makes me feel at home, because, I mean, like, why do you write if it's not to heal? Like, you gotta get the bad shit out so the good stuff can come in. So, I'm gonna do another one that's new, that I hadn't planned on doing. It's very short. Sometimes, when you're driving home on a Wednesday afternoon, you start to feel a little bit nihilistic. And if you're like me, you think that nihilism is like the immature and lazy cousin of absurdism and existentialism, but you decide to make it useful anyway because you're feeling it, and why not? And if you're even more like me, you write a poem about it, and you call it Creation Stories, and it goes like this. Infinity is a void to which even God must answer. Turning busy hands to pass eternity, again and again he sighs restless into the clay. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Are there any Isaac Asimov fans in the audience? What's up? I know you know what I'm about to say. So he did this short story called The Final Answer, and after I wrote that, I was like, damn, that's a lot like The Final Answer, and you should read it. It's really awesome. It's a fantastic story, and it's going to make you think about stuff, and it might make you uncomfortable, but a lot of good writing does that, and it's not going to tell you what to think, just it's stuff to think about. And I think that brings me to my last one, and this is a poem that, unless this is your first time coming to an Out Loud event, you've probably heard before. Many of you have probably heard 2 or 3 times. Kimberly, you've heard this about a dozen times, I'm sure, and you're probably tired of it. This is the poem's retirement, because I've decided that I cannot keep using this as my signature poem. So here goes, and that's going to be that. This is called, I've read enough books of poetry to know that you always, always, always write a sappy one for the reader. Or, dear reader, I love you. Love, Sam. Meet me at the crest of a breath. Let's find ourselves in that moment when our lungs reveal the complete surfaces to our skin, if we could only quiet it just so. When the dashing and swirling particles in that great volume of air would be almost still. Meet me bright and candid and in love with everyone you've ever met. In that moment, we could live entire lives underwater, shifting and fragmenting sheets of light pouring down through our swimming hair, ready to be swallowed whole, swallowed together by some magnificent heavenly fish. And don't worry if you miss me. Don't wait for me. Don't hold on. Let go and taste the warm current as it drifts off your tongue. Don't worry if you miss me. We have thousands of lives, thousands of bodies, trillions of breaths for practice. I promise I will return to that place. When we finally meet, maybe I'm a little girl from Taiwan visiting an uncle I've never met, and you're a confused Michigan teenager. Your mother's scared for your grades and for your father in the snow, and you see me, stacked low in my strange coat, watching you. So you give me the airplane you were folding. Or maybe we're fishers in neighboring vessels, finding ourselves at last in the breast of the sea after landlocked years caring for children sick with different diseases, now better. Mine a pitcher, yours a dancer. And you holler from over the wall of your gently rocking boat, "Beautiful day, isn't it, stranger?" And I call back, something that makes us smile, something to make us sigh sweetly into the loving pull of our quivering rods. Thank you. The hat. I promised him I'd wear the hat for one poem, and I was going to do it for the opening poem, and I forgot, and
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
all right.
Okay, all right.
Encore.
I'm going to do a quick one just so I can fulfill a promise. This is not like some self-serving thing that I'm suspicious that everything I do will appear that way. Let me find something. If there's one you know you like, let me know.
That one.
The one my hand was on?
Yeah.
I forgot too.
The running one.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I know that one from memory.
I'm just going to request the whole set list.
Okay, so if some days you feel bad, it's good to have a healthy thing you can do to make you feel better. I think that running is an excellent thing to do. You exercise, your brain releases endorphins, your body starts feeling good. You're like, I can do shit, I can do that stuff that I've been avoiding. So, this is a poem about that. It's called 6 a.m. on a Saturday in October, and I've decided for the 20th time to get my life together. It used to be to get my shit together, but then I changed it because I had to do it for the radio, and we couldn't say shit on the radio. And I actually kind of like it more with live, even though shit is fun to say. But anyway, here's the poem. I sigh my reluctance to the cold, and wonder if this year will be like the last. If all winter I'll wait for spring, only to say finally, you were right. But I remember that I was made with teeth, and my legs are strong. My feet beat a covenant into the earth. I am far from finished. The footfalls pounding fresh in my skull, rattling loose the persistent grime. I resign myself to the fading of the green that I love, that I still think I need. This is not the first time I've taken my first breath in months. The stick of spit to my face I count as a blessing as I roar my devotion to this new sun, this mighty surge forward, this sinew, this bone. I am an inferno. I spray myself into the morning and lick my tongues into the sweeping mountains to color the panorama in my likeness. Gone green, I am the reds of sky and blood and fire. I am the last gasping breath that will not finally cease. I am for myself forever. I am the cracked earthen shell, immortal.
Yeah.
Thank you for